Okay.
Oh, okay, we're live.
Success.
Okay.
Namaste. May the infinite Lord of life, of love and laughter bless you at this moment. May each cell of your being, each petal of your mind be touched, be healed, be harmonized. May vim, vigor, and vitality be yours. May you truly find that which you seek, and may you find that which you seek surely, swiftly, and most harmoniously. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Again, I'd like to welcome you this morning to the Temple of Kriya Yoga, the new meditation. And today I'm going to be talking about memories, time to remember. According to Hinduism, the purpose of life is to know Sri Brahman. Sri Brahman is the ultimate unchanging reality. Brahman is formless, infinite, and eternal. Brahman is the absolute truth. I like to say that Brahman is not God. Brahman is the God of gods. And what we're trying to do is establish a connection between ourselves and this Brahman. Now, that might sound like a tall order, and I guess in fact it really is. And it's something that's easy to say, something that's not so easy to do. There's many paths that we can take to attain this connection between our life and the spiritual life, between our life and the life of Brahman. And today I would like to meditate with you on one of those paths, the time to remember, suggesting with that we have forgotten something. A few months ago, I had something very interesting happening. This is the time of the meditation. I talk about personal experiences. And I was in a Walmart doing some shopping and got a couple things. And I went to check out the items that I was going to buy. And when I went to the checkout, it was one of those self-service type of kiosk checkout where you have about 10 registers, and they're kind of arranged in kind of a rectangle or circle type of thing. And you go up to one area where they have there where you're going to go in, and then you have 10 of them, and so you're waiting in line. At this point, I had one person, there was one gentleman that was there, and he was in front of me. And I had just gotten there, and then I could tell something started to happen where he said something, and now you have him, of course, he's right there, right in front of me. And then in the center of this triangle or circle, you have the Walmart agent who's there if someone's having trouble. And it was a young lady that was there, and she was just standing there. And then slightly behind her, you had the register with a woman, a young lady standing there at the register, and she's kind of turning around. and looking at the fellow that's in front of me. And so you have me, you have the gentleman, you have the Walmart agent, and you have the young woman there. And it went back and forth. He said something, the woman there said something, then he said something, and obviously he was getting a little bit irritated. And so he said something, and here's the Walmart agent looking at him, and all of a sudden she has this expression on her face like, what did you just say? Obviously he thought he was talking to her. And so he realizes that what was happening was he was talking to his wife. So he was, and the Walmart agent happened to be in between. He says something, she has this expression on her face. He realizes, oh my God, what did I just say? And so he says to the Walmart agent, I'm sorry. I was talking to my wife. I would never say anything like that to you. That's one of those priceless moments, right? That's what if you had a very talented speaker, that speaker would be able to talk for hours and hours and hours about that interaction that took about 10 or 15 seconds in total. He forgot, okay? He forgot that here was this woman that, I don't know, months ago, maybe a few years ago, he would have climbed the highest mountain to meet. He would have swam the deepest ocean to meet her. Here's this woman, the mother of his children, probably the mother of his children. And here he says, things that are obviously not very nice. He forgot who he was talking to. He forgot there was a spiritual being in front of him. I'm talking about him and I'm talking about her. But I'm not talking about him and her. I'm talking about me and I'm talking about you. We all do it. We've all been in the same. We can laugh and kind of chuckle a little bit about the situation and what had happened and what had transpired. We realize in our mind how terrible it is. But then we have to take that as a lesson. We're supposed to, life is a classroom, I think they say sometimes. We have to learn from life, and we have to learn from other people's mistakes. If I take it and I talk about you and me and I talk about this situation, but then we move from there and we move into the world, and we can feel this personal connection when we talk about a story like this. But then you go outside and you start walking down the street and somebody's honking their horn at you, somebody bumps into you, and the same type of thing happens within us. We say to ourselves, we get angry and we want to lash out, and we want to say to the person driving in front of us, would you please speed up a little bit? Would you go on the other lane so I could get by you? And we get agitated, we get irritated. And so now it's between me and somebody walking down the street instead of me and somebody in the home environment. But the situation's the same. I'm dealing with an entity, a physical being, that within that physical being is spirit, is divinity, something divine that's in that being. And we have to remember that that's who we're dealing with. And of course, I talk about the home environment, Walmart, or I talk about walking down the street. But the same thing is true on a bigger scale, because you get into dealing with people outside of that small environment that you have. And if you start interacting with people like that, and you say something that's not very nice, and then the person says to you something back, instead of saying something, let's turn the heat down, they say something in return that elevates the heat, that elevates the situation. And so it's even more emotional at that point. And so then now your emotions are higher, and then the other, and it just goes back and forth until the whole day is ruined, because you have a fight that a month from now, 2 months from now, or a year from now, you won't even remember it. What was the fight about? Well, I don't know. I have no idea. You remember the fight. You remember the fight, but you don't remember what it was about. That's because it was unimportant. The whole day was ruined because you forgot that there's something more important than me being right. There's something much more important than me being right. I'll let you be right. And then guess what happens? If I let you be right, the fight never happens. You have a nice day. You have a nice life. Wonderful life. You have to remember, that's what the objective is. Our objective is to know Sri Brahman. Sri Brahman never gets mad. Sri Brahman never says anything good. Sri Brahman never says anything. It's non-existence. It's that thing that exists beyond reality, beyond life, beyond what we can be aware of with our senses. Again, it's the God of gods, or like I said, God is such a small being compared to Brahman, or the idea, the concept of Brahman. And so, I guess it's interesting to say it that way, because if you start to analyze it and think about it, what you start to come to realize is that whether you know it or not, you have available to you an enormous weapon. This weapon is sharper than any sword that was ever designed or made. It's more powerful than a machine gun. You have within you a weapon that is more powerful than 100 atomic bombs. It's called your tongue. Kriyananda used to say that's the sword that we have, our tongue. So many things start out with a little interplay between one another. I say something, you say something, you disagree, or I disagree, and so I say, my ego is bruised, it hurts, so I'm gonna fix that by saying something to show you that you're wrong. And so then that person's ego is bruised, and then the fight escalates. And you blink a few times, and before you know it, my God, people are dropping bombs on each other. They're killing each other. They're fighting with swords, their fists, or whatever they have, all because they are able to control that weapon that we have called the tongue. We've lost track. We've lost the ability to put the ego aside and put rational thinking in front of us. And keep the peace in the family and keep the peace in the world. And like I said, we know Sri Brahman is smarter because Sri Brahman doesn't have a tongue. He's trying to give us an example. So here's how you get through life peacefully. You put away the sword, put the sword back in the sheath, put the tongue back in the mouth and close the lips, and then you go a step further. After you do that, and then you go a step further. You start to analyze the situation. What happened? Why did the situation occur as it occurred? And in life, it's funny. We have a protective mechanism. I talked about the weapon we have, hopefully with a little bit of humor included in it. But I talked about the weapon here. But we also have a shield. We have a guard that we have, that's part of our physical being, or part of what we are. And that guard that we have, that shield that we have, is called the physical body. And I'm calling it a shield because I'm suggesting to you that it's something separate from what you are. What you are is you are spirit. And the spirit exists within the physical body, within the physical vehicle. And that's the real you. That's the thing that you're trying to remember that you are. You are spirit. Spirit is perfection. Brahman is spirit. Spirit is Brahman. And then we get this saying, you are Brahman and Brahman is you. Not you, the physical body. The physical body is just a thing. Like I said, it's a shield that is protecting the spirit that exists within you. And we're using it to protect the spirit. And over the eons of time, something has happened. What has happened is that spirit that you are, the spirit that I am, that exists within us, that I'm saying we've forgotten that it's there. The spirit that we've forgotten that we are, that is there. The reason we've forgotten it is because we've come to think, I'm the shield. I'm the protector. I'm the home of the spirit that exists there. We've forgotten the reality of who we are. And it's a duality that exists there, because the duality is two things. One is the spirit, and I've talked about the spirit. When we say spirit, what we're talking about is something that exists outside of time. It's not a time thing, time-related thing. The spirit exists without time, and another way we say it is that it exists, it's immortal, or it's eternal, really, I think is the correct word. The spirit is eternal. It has no beginning, it has no end. It does not live, it does not die. It exists. Life is always a duality. There's a second part of that eternal existence. That second part in yoga we call prakriti. Prakriti means matter, but it doesn't mean matter like my harmonium here or the chair there. It's not that kind of matter. It's the matter that the chair is made from in its primordial existence, in the substance that exists before the chair existed. There was something there. That prakriti, that eternal matter is also eternal. In other words, we're saying the same thing. whatever it is, this prakriti, whatever it is, it exists outside of time. It's not affected by time. Therefore, it has no beginning, it has no end. And so and that's all there is, according to Shakya yoga philosophy. Yoga philosophy, Shakya philosophy, that's a dualistic system. We're back to the duality. Everything is in life always comes down to a duality. I'm kind of a mathematician at heart. I had one time thought of teaching mathematics. I loved it. I had fun with it. And when I got into the temple and started studying, numbers became a big thing. I even took a course in numerology. I thought, oh, this sounds interesting. It's dealing with numbers. And it is. And there's certain numbers that are very critical in using as a mechanism to understand life. And one of them, the numbers, is 2. 2 being duality, and that's what I'm kind of referring to. I'm talking about, the husband and the wife at the checkout counter, the duality there. I'm talking about spirit and matter, and that's a duality. And so this duality exists. And what has happened is the spirit, in trying to understand and comprehend matter, prakriti, got enmeshed in it. And I'm humanizing it a little bit. I'm putting it in human terms. What do they call it? Anthropomorphism. Putting some life into it. But in effect, what happened was you had this entity called the spirit, and the spirit had consciousness. We say spirit is consciousness, and you have consciousness in you. But then prakriti is matter. And it's a thing. It's not really a thing, but it is a thing. Like I'm trying to describe something that exists outside of time, so it gets a little tongue twisting there. But anyway, you have this prakriti, and the spirit, in an effort to learn something, got enmeshed in the prakriti way back eons ago, in time immemorial. And when it first happened, it was an enjoyable experience to learn, for the spirit to learn and to become aware of what prakriti is and what can be done with prakriti. With prakriti, I can make a chair. With prakriti, I can make a computer. I can talk to my friends on the computer, or my iPhone here somewhere. I can carry it with me and talk with them now. That's fun. And all of that is fun. The problem is we've gotten enmeshed in it, and we think, I am the chair. And I think, I am the physical body. And in that thinking, I'm the physical body, I need to defend it. And so if somebody does something that's offensive, something kicks in, and over the eons of time. Like I said, in the beginning, it wasn't like this. But at some point in time, the spirit got more and more enmeshed, more and more tangled into the prakriti, the substance, the form, to the point where the form became more important than the spirit. And neither one is more important. They're both eternal. They both had no beginning, no ending. But something happened. Something happened in the eons in time, and in the evolutionary process, and in this process of the entanglement of the prakriti and of the purushra, of the spirit, getting entangled into the prakriti, the physical body that we are. And it's gotten to the point where in modern day world that we live in, we no longer believe the spirit exists. We have forgotten the spirit. And when I say that, I'm talking kind of singularly, the spirit that exists within you, the spirit that exists within me. And so I talk in one-to-one on a singular, a one-to-one basis. But it's beyond that. It's between me and the chair. I have a relationship at the chair. I stub my toe. I stub my toe on the chair and I get mad at the chair. It sounds funny, but we do it. We think that we've gotten to the point in our evolution where we think that the prakriti, the physical substance, the things, that's what I think Kriyananda might say, is the things in life have become more important than life. We've forgotten that life is what's important. Life is what's more important than life, not the things that we have in life. The spirit that we are, the Atma, that's the word we would use in yoga. Atma means spirit. Atma is Brahman. Brahman is Atma. And everything I'm saying here, I'm talking about Brahman. But you forgot that. I'm kidding with you. I'm talking about Brahman. I'm talking about Atma. I'm talking about the spirit. My spirit, your spirit. If we get caught up in the physical world and listening to somebody speak and all of that, and we get focused, that's a good thing. Go ahead and listen to what I'm saying. Nothing wrong with that. But then we have to always have in our mind the memory, the remembrance, the recollection that there's a spirit that exists within us. There's something that exists within us, which is really all that's important in life. It's all that's important. It's the spirit that you are and the spirit that I am now. In the beginning, what's important is the spirit that you are for you and the spirit that I am for me. But at some point, what I have to realize is the spirit that I am is also the spirit that you are. And that's the path that we're on. If you're coming to the temple here and listening to my speak, you're not here by accident. This is all karmic. Everything that's happening to you is all karmic. Karmic means cause and effect. It means it's happening because it's meant to happen. So if you're here listening to me today about this, it's because there was something in your unconscious mind that brought you here. It wasn't an accident that you just showed up here by accident. And somebody says they couldn't make it, so they'll have to listen to me in a few days. And we got our miracle of our modern technology, and so we can go back to our computer and we can get on the computer and start typing away, and people that weren't here at this moment can hear and watch and listen to what I'm talking about in the future, hopefully into the far future. Listen and talk. And there's actually something very mystical about that thought. But we're trying to connect to the spirit, and in connecting to the spirit, we need to understand what this physical body is. Like I said, it has become a guard for us. It guards us from something else, someone else. It wasn't meant to be that. Way back in the beginning, it was just a toy in the beginning, but it's become serious in the evolution of time and the eons of time. It has become very serious to the point where the physical body is more important to me than anything. And what's really fascinating about it is that no matter what you do, and you know this, and I know this, it's going to disappear one of these days, the physical body. It ain't going to be here in this world. The prakriti will be there. And you know what is going to happen? The spirit's going to say, oh, I remember that fight I had, and I remember that woman, and oh, she was so beautiful. Gosh, I'd really like to meet her again. And then in her mind, she's going, oh, I remember that fight, but he was so wonderful. I really want to meet her again. And the next lifetime comes along, and they run into each other, and they learn something from each other. You know, there'll be a Walmart in 2500, and they're going to be in this Walmart. something's going to happen, and the question is going to be, what will they do? What will they do? Will they remember what happened 5 lifetimes ago in that Walmart? Will they remember and say, oh God, it's not worth it? Or will they start up again and say, oh, that was a good memory, let's try it again. Maybe I'll win the battle this time. And you can never win the battle. You just can't. There's no battle to be won. So you can't win the battle. And I have to take that back. You can win the battle. And of course, you know what I'm going to say. You win the battle by taking the sword and put it back in the sheath where it belongs. I guess Kriya used to say that animals are much more evolved than us. Maybe he was thinking because they can't talk. So we can talk, and so we're supposed to be more evolved, but we're showing how unevolved we are with the way we talk and talk with each other. And like I said, just leading to bigger and bigger battles until we do unthinkable things to ourselves. Because that's all we're doing when we do this battle and this fighting and all the disruption that we create in our life and the difficulties that we create is what we do. We create it for ourselves. We've actually created the physical body that we exist in. We've created the world that we exist in previous lives. The curiosity and the fun of the creation is still there. And when we create something, we do something creative, and we accomplish something at work. You go to work and you have a task to do, and you accomplish the task. You know how you feel. Wow, that was nice. That felt good. Maybe the boss gives you a raise and says, oh, we'll give you a bonus. You did so well. And you say, wow, that feels good. We remember that. That's what you got to remember, those good feelings. The purpose of those feelings is to get you to think, how do I sustain that feeling, that good feeling, through my whole life, from the time I get up to the time I go to bed, through the night to the time I get up again? How do I sustain that feeling? That's what life is about. How do what's the magic trick that I've forgotten? What have I forgotten about life that I can't remember to be happy? I got up this morning and I was feeling a little depressed. Why? I had to struggle with myself to say, wow, look outside, it's sunny out, it's nice out, and I get to meet some people. For years, I've been talking to a screen. I talk and talk, and it's no fun talking to a screen. And now I got some wonderful people to talk to. It's a marvelous experience. I started to think about it, and I get excited and say, hey, that's pretty good. I kind of like that. It's nice. You get to meet people, exchange ideas, and things like that. I get special treatment because I can talk about things that have been inside of me, and I think about them in my head. And I say, geez, I wonder if it's right, if it's wrong. I just react and I think about it. And I'm very fortunate because I can sit here and talk about the stuff that's going through my head, exchange the ideas with you, and I see you smile and say, oh, I must have said something good. Or somebody gets up and walks out and I say, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. I better learn something from the experience. And the whole thing is I better learn from the experience. And hopefully you can learn from a few words that I'm communicating, ideas that I'm communicating today. A time to remembering who we are and what we are, and what the purpose of life. And the purpose of life is to be happy, or to keeping in with the theme of today. The purpose of life is to remember how to be happy. Remember how to be positive when you go out into the world. And it's necessary to say it. I'd rather not say it, but it has to be said. You're going to go out into the world, and no matter what happens, our moods change. We haven't evolved to that point yet where we can smile when someone steps on our toe and pretend it didn't happen. We just haven't gotten to that point yet. And so there's going to be people that irritate us. There's going to be ideas that we don't like that we hear people express. The boss is going to yell at us instead of telling us that we did a good job and we did a great job. And the wife is going to tell us how we can improve ourselves. And the husband's going to say, I'll improve myself by watching football today. That's how I'll improve myself. Or something like that. And so then the difficulties start. And again, at that point, you have to stop and say, wait, I got to stop. And I have to remember the purpose of life is to be happy. And no matter what happens in this life, good or bad, you're going to exist, you're going to have experiences, stuff's going to go on, you're going to walk through this life, and then at some point, you're going to stop. And the body, not you, but the body is going to stop. It's going to hopefully get old and gray and then stop. But it's going to happen. If you're taking that as bad news, the good news is you're going to blink a couple of times and you're going to be back again, screaming, saying, Mommy, Daddy, I'm back. Ready for round 2 or 2,000 or whatever it might be. And we just keep doing it until we start to go really backwards in time. We do it enough times so that we're forced to remember who and what we are. We're forced to remember that we are spirit, and that's who we are. And the spirit is perfection. It can never be anything but perfection. And even the prakriti that exists, the form it takes is imperfect. And it's transitory. And really that's what transitory means. It's imperfect. So it changes. The prakriti, the substance that it comes from, is perfect. It is always perfect, and it will always be perfect. Makes me wonder, what's the purpose of the prakriti? What's the purpose of the spirit? And what's the purpose of the two? So that, I think, is really what I'm trying to communicate to you today. Hopefully with a little bit of fun. The purpose of life is to know Sri Brahman. The purpose of life is to know Atman. You are Atman. Atman is Brahman. Atman is Sri Brahman. Sri means Mr. or it's an honorific title. It's Sir Brahman. Atman is Brahman. Brahman is Atman, is what we say. And Atma is spirit. It's different words, meaning things slightly different, but at the end of the day, it all means the same thing. It is the perfection that exists, and that perfection exists within you, and it is within you. That perfection is within me, and it exists within me. And one of the paths that leads back to the awareness of the spirit, one of the paths that leads back to me remembering who and what I am, the spirit that I am. One of the paths is the path of memory and the path of meditation. And I think maybe just close with that idea. How do we improve the memory? How do we start to remember these things that we should remember? How do I get to know this spirit that exists within me? How do I get past the forgetfulness of the physical body that's there? And the way you do it is you separate from it, and you separate from it through the meditative practices, through the disciplines that they talk about in yoga or any mysticism. Any mystical school talks about disciplines that you do. Have a proper diet, have a proper attitude. Learn how to deal life. Someone gives you a hard time, forgive them. You know, the 10 commandments, we have the 10 commandments in yoga, but we have 10 commandments in Christianity too. They're really good guidelines. You know, whether you're for Christianity or against it, it doesn't matter. The guidelines, the 10 commandments are there, pretty good guidelines to go by. Something in yoga, we call them, we have what's comparable to the 10 commandments in Christianity. And it has, and one of them is nonviolence. Don't be violent. Don't be violent to anybody external to you, and don't even be violent to yourself. Don't be violent physically. Don't be violent with your words. Don't be violent with the thoughts that you think. And that's where I was getting to, is don't even think the thoughts. You want to get to that point where if the thought even starts to get to that point where it's a negative thought or a difficult thought, if you have to, it's going to come in there, but understand it and deal with it, and learn to deal with it through the disciplines in some positive way. Try and get something positive out of it. Try and produce something beneficial, not only for the person or people that you're dealing with, but for the self that you're dealing, for your own benefit in that. And again, you do it through the meditative techniques. You simply, you go into a nice, comfortable meditative posture, and you say cross legs. You can sit in a chair comfortably. If you cross your legs, that's fine. You don't have to. And I'll play a little bit of music. I carried this all the way here. I have to do a little bit of music. And then after the music stops, just go into a little meditation and just meditate for a few minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, something like that. And so I'll do some chanting. The chanting, this is called the 12-letter mantra. It's because it has 12 Sanskrit letters attached to it. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And it's related to the spinal column. It's a sound that you hear at the base of the spine. If you could go into a meditation and hear a sound that is coming from the base of the spine, or we associated with the base of the spine, it would be Om. And then you go above that a little bit, and you'll hear a sound Na, and then above that Mo Ba Ga. And so there's 12 letters. And when you chant the mantra, what you're doing is you're kind of tapping these centers. Of course, I'm talking about the chakra system. And so as you do this, each time you say one of the sounds, you're kind of tapping these centers within you. And what they do is they help you to remember. They help you to get beyond the forgetfulness and to remember who and what you are, the spirit that you are. And so it's so that's the melody, and it's just Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And so we'll chant it. I have some papers out there. if you're not familiar with it, you can refer to those. And then that's the melody. And if you want, you can chant. That's great. If you want to just sit and listen, that's okay too. Again, the melody. Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo 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 Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namaste. Thank you for joining this afternoon.